Hello, you welcome to another interesting edition of the only show that projects happenings in the world of diplomacy and international relations in Ghana, Africa, and the rest of the world. My name is Harriet Nati. The show airs every Saturday between the hours of 4 and 5 o'clock p.m. on Pan-African television. So you can always join us wherever you find yourself in the world, because we are also on social media, Facebook, YouTube. You can always catch up with us when it comes to issues in the world of diplomacy and international relations. Now, May 29th each year marks UN Peacekeepers Day. Peacekeepers come from all walks of life with diverse cultural backgrounds and from an ever-growing number of member states. Today on the show, we will delve into the commemoration of UN International Peacekeepers Day, May 29th. Why it is so important for the UN to ensure that peacekeepers are celebrated worldwide. And we will talk about the objectives, especially Ghana's role when it comes to peacekeeping in the world. Ghana is said to be one of the largest contributors of peace globally, and we want to delve into this. My guest is Brigadier General Winfried Dzandu-Hedidor, the Director General of the International Peace Support Operations of the Ghana Armed Forces. I will be back right after this break.
In previous seasons, you saw this.
You are not allowed to hawk or preach in commercial vehicles.
The perception in Ghana is abortion is illegal, and we don't follow up with the exceptions.
The existence of the customary marriage is no prerequisite
for the ordinance
marriage.
Yes.
And now, are you ready for this?
Some people express the fact that they don't go on leave with pride.
Accumulated leave, like they term it, is illegal.
Because in Ghana we don't have enough lawyers, and the accused can apply for bail where he has no lawyer.
Knowing full well that you have an STI and you do not reveal that to the person and you have this sexual contact with the person, it is also part of domestic violence.
Join the Law Express panel for relevant, informative, and educative topics.
It is clear that if the court grants bail, it is the registrar of the court that has the power to deal with execution of the bail.
All matrimonial properties that are sold without the consent of the other party are actually null and void.
Welcome back to the show. Now, imagine a world without peace and security. How would we thrive as humans? How would we build friendships? How would we go about our chores and all the things that we want to do, especially as countries and, of course, at the international level? Peace is a necessity when it comes to the existence of humans. And so today we have decided to look at the upcoming International UN Peacekeepers Day, which is on May 29th every year, this Monday, and today being Saturday. I have the pleasure or the privilege of having a very important resource person who will take us through the nitty-gritties when it comes to Peacekeepers Day celebration. Thank you so much for joining us on Diplomatic Affairs.
Thank you for having me.
Right. Now, let's just go into our conversation. When we talk about peacekeeping, we all know peace is vital to the existence of humans.
Yeah.
Without a peaceful world, we can never, ever survive in the world. And so peace is a necessity. Why is it important? All the same, let me find out, why is it important for a day to be, designated to celebrate peacekeepers?
Yeah, again, thank you for the question. As you would well be aware, the nuances of the world make it such that peace is not guaranteed. Therefore, there is a lot of effort that goes into ensuring that there is peace. The United Nations has the prerogative of ensuring by its article that international peace and security is ensured for humans to thrive. As a result of this, it has mechanisms in place to ensure that there is peace. One of these is the contribution of member states into a force that ensures that where there is no peace, such peace is brought about. And in the line of their duties, a lot of things happen, dangers occur. And over the more than 7 decades of this exercise of the UN, there have been casualties. And the UN thought it necessary to celebrate people who have laid down their lives in order to ensure that others live. It is on this note that the UN decided by its resolutions that the 29th of May is set aside. And that is so because it was in 1948 that the UN's business of peacekeeping commenced in what was called the United Nations Truce Supervision organization, also called UNSO. So that day was deliberately celebrated and selected for us to honor our heroes, those who laid their lives for peace to prevail.
Interesting, giving us a background on how it all started and why it is important for a day of this nature to be marked. Yeah. We celebrate fallen peacekeepers, if I can put it that way.
Sure.
And so, as a veteran peacekeeper yourself, I like to be very practical when I am speaking to my resource persons, so viewers can appreciate the conversation. Okay. You have been on the ground to ensure that people who need to be protected by putting your life at risk in your line of duty. You've been in Côte d'Ivoire, Sierra Leone, and quite a number of places, Liberia.
Correct.
And the Democratic Republic of Congo.
Correct.
Let me take you back. Share with me your experience on the ground.
Well, peacekeeping generally, was ascribed to Dag Hammarskjöld, is not for soldiers, but it's only soldiers who can do it. Now, that statement is pregnant with a lot of meaning, that as a soldier, you've been prepared for all kinds of hardship, and therefore, as a peacekeeper on the ground, you tend to exhibit the skills that you were taught during training. So in Liberia, where we needed to enforce the peace, there is a lot that goes on, very risky enterprise. At times in your youthful age, you find it quite interesting, but there is a lot that comes into what makes peacekeeping.
Very well said. Let's talk about the current situation. I would want us to cite our examples based on what is happening currently. Let me take you to Sudan.
Okay.
And let's look at the conflict in Sudan, for instance. This is one typical example. This is a place that actually demands your services. This is where you are sent to go and ensure that calm is restored, ensure that peace is restored, ensure that the people are safe. What is the anticipation like, when you have news like this presented to you that, there is an assignment and you have to go? What really happens? Because you leave families behind, you have people you are responsible for. A lot happens in your personal life, and then your professional line of duty as well. What really, are you prepared? Are soldiers ever prepared?
Well, if you talk about our preparedness as soldiers, probably I go back to the same statement that I made, that the job is not for soldiers, but it's only soldiers who can do it. Because after going through 2 years of basic training and living my life of 35 years of service to the colors.
35 years?
Yes, including 2 years of training. I can only say that the training prepares you to do all other things. peacekeeping is an aspect of military training. You are brought in to be able to endure, to face hardships out of your own comfort zone. You are able to operate equipment with weapons. You are able to stay in very complex environments. You are able to cooperate with other stakeholders. As you are aware, peacekeeping is not only for the military. You have the police and other civil actors. And in this complex operating environment, there are a lot of NGOs and civilian actors that you need to cooperate with. So it is important to state that basic training and our lifelong career as military person, for me, is what makes that anxiety when you get the news, makes you relax a bit. And thereafter, you plan, go through the planning process, an elaborate one that takes you into the theater of operation.
Ghana is said to be one of the largest contributors of peace globally and also exporter of peacekeepers. We are happy when we hear things like this. It means that we play a very important role in peacekeeping. Let's talk about Ghana's role in peacekeeping. Then we will go to Ghana's membership on the Security Council, which was in 2022 to 2023. So let's go back to the role of Ghana in peacekeeping.
Very good. Ghana has distinguished itself in peacekeeping. I can only sum it up by saying that Ghana is synonymous to peacekeeping. And this accomplishment has Nkrumah's antecedents when our first president sent us to the Congo to help restore peace when that country had crisis. Thereafter, we've been ubiquitous in most peacekeeping operations. As for the continent of Africa, we are the chassis of peacekeeping. And all other parts of the world, we've been there. I just want to enumerate that we are still in Lebanon, we are in South Sudan, we are in Abyei, we are in Mali, we are also actually in MONUSCO, which is DR Congo, Syria, Cyprus, Central African Republic, Western Sahara, Libya, and Somalia, where we provide staff officers or military observers. So Ghana's role has been very pivotal, both in the provision of troops and in leadership role. Probably if you want to be interested in our leadership role, we can talk about that one as well. So as you will be aware, from the General Erskine days, who was first the Chief of Staff in UNEF, and then led the force as the first force commander for the United Nations Interim Force in Lebanon, that brought us all this way.
That's Anita Erskine's father.
Exactly. So General Erskine was the first force commander for UNIFIL. Thereafter, from that time, we've not left UNIFIL. I dare say Ghana will be the last troop contributing country to leave UNIFIL, because we have so endeared ourselves to the Lebanese people. So aside of him, we've had General Seto Bing, DCK Carter in those days. And in recent times, we've had Major General Ivan Aite, who just returned as the Deputy Force Commander of UNIFIL. And we have other people in operational theaters. Currently, we hold a Deputy Force Commander position in South Sudan, where Major General Boba Fram is. And we have a female Commodore Faustina Anoche, who is the Deputy Force Commander in Minnesota, Western Sahara. Brigadier General Anita Asma just returned from Ondorf in Syria, and so many others. I want to specifically mention the late Major General Ejani Apenu, who was also the Deputy Force Commander in Western Sahara. So we are all over the place in supporting the global search for peace and security. If you want to talk about the civilian aspect of leadership from the UN level, you will remember our own Busumuru Kofi Annan, may his soul rest in peace, who rose through the ranks to become the Secretary General. Currently, you will remember also Dr. Ibn Chambers, who was the special representative of the Secretary General for West Africa and the Sahel. Currently, we have Madame Ama Echan-Pobi, the Assistant Secretary General for the UN for Africa, the Department of Political Affairs. Madame Hannah Tete is the Special Envoy for the Horn of Africa. I'm happy to note also, yes, that Ms. Anita Kiki-Gbahu is the Special Representative of the Secretary General for the United Nations Assistant Mission in Somalia. And just a month ago, Ms. Lena Liman, President Liman's daughter, took over as the Chief of Staff of South Sudan operation. They are countless, and these people have all played impactful role in the quest of the UN business and peacekeeping as a whole.
As we look at the leadership, let's talk about the numbers.
Yes.
Somehow.
Yes. So Ghanaian contribution for the last so many years adds up to the global figure of over 2 million peacekeepers.
2 million peacekeepers.
Yes, from the time it was inserted in 1948. And for Ghanaians, we've been in more than 30 missions. Let me just give you the current figure where we have almost 2,789 peacekeepers and serving as the 7th top military contributing country. I also need to add that we have police contributing personnel too as part of Ghana's peacekeeping story. So in total, we are looking at about 2,722 peacekeepers in all.
Right.
I must break it down into the male component of 83% and the female of 16.49% of the Ghanaian contribution. Gender has become a topic, so anytime you mention this, you need to let them know that we are also doing gender parity in terms of peacekeeping.
It's very important. Gender parity in every sector is very important. Let's talk about the 77th General Assembly meeting.
Yes.
And at the headquarters, of course, the President of Ghana delivered a remarkable speech. And part of it was focused on peace and why it is so important for the world to be at peace. Let's go back to that speech.
Okay.
And then let's actually bring it into this day.
Okay. Thank you very much for that aspect as well. Looking at His Excellency President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo's address to the 77th UN General Assembly, I should say that the speech was chassis on our role in the Security Council. As you will be aware, Ghana rejoined the Security Council in January 2022, and that was the third time Ghana held the non-permanent seat on the council. Previously, we served on the Security Council from 1962 to 1963, and then from January 2006 to December 2007. So in the capacity as the president of the Security Council, Ghana is focusing on the theme enhancing global peace and security for sustainable and inclusive development, particularly on the continent of Africa. This is aimed at addressing underlying causes that drive conflict that include the growth of the youth bulge, poverty, climate change, and the absence of resilient institutions. So our president, in that leadership role, demonstrated leadership by making a clarion call to other world leaders when he said, and I quote, "Let's seize the opportunity to make changes that will help deal with the many challenges we face," unquote. So President Akufo-Addo touched on the essence of global peace and security, issues of terrorism, especially in the Sahel, economic development of the third world, and food security, among other thematic areas. And to tackle this myriad of issues, He advocated, again, I quote, for transformative solutions to underlocking challenges, unquote. Our role in peacekeeping has come very far, and Ghana is quite pivotal, especially on the continent of Africa. I should mention that the force in Mali is seeing a lot of turbulence.
Right, I was just coming to that.
Correct. Where foreign countries, powerful countries, with all their resources and sophistication, are abandoning the mission. But Ghana has decided to remain in Mali with our engineer company providing service to humanity. And therefore, that is the role that we play, hammering on the speech that our Honorable and His Excellency President Dankwa Akufo-Addo presented to the 77th General Assembly.
I want us to talk about what we seek to achieve at the end of the day.
So, Harriet, peacekeeping has an end state, despite all the other things that we do. Peacekeeping generally brings about global peace and security, where we try to assist the host nation in political mechanisms. So you can see peacekeepers assist in electioneering processes. Right. We also ensure protection of civilians, which has been inculcated in the mandates recently. Because if you don't protect the civilians, then you can achieve peace. We also have the protection of human rights, such that the Geneva Convention and so on and so forth will be achieved to preserve life and property. We also assist in the restoration of the rule of law, where officers from the police and prison service, legal affairs, go to assist countries to ensure that their rule of law is carried out. We also look at disarmament, disintegration, and demobilization, as you say, and reintegration of ex-combatants into their national armed forces. So in a word, peacekeeping helps countries to bring a lasting peace, support political processes, protect civilians, and to a large extent, guarantee ceasefires.
Well, this goes to confirm the role peacekeepers play in our lives as humans, right. And not just as humans, like you said, protecting properties as well. So this is very important. Now, the theme for this year is Peace Begins With Me.
Correct.
Peace begins with me.
Correct.
And 75 years of UN peacekeeping. So this is the 75th commemoration.
Correct.
Of the UN Peacekeepers Day. Let's talk about in our own ways before we come to the activities earmarked for this year's celebration. Let's talk about individually.
Correct.
How we can also contribute to peacekeeping globally.
Yeah. So you are aware that if you are not at peace with yourself, it will show. That will resonate in whatever you do. So individually, I think we need to be at peace with ourselves. And that will translate into good neighborliness. And as you talk to me, assuming we're quarreling, we wouldn't be having this good conversation. No. So within neighbors and the community, and it grows into the state, and then neighboring countries. So the biblical thing saying that we need to be at peace with ourselves in order to ensure that that is translated elsewhere comes to play. So as countries, you remember that favorite quote in the Bible that so long as it depends on you, live at peace with each other. So if you are at peace with your neighbor, there wouldn't be the need for that neighbor to do something untoward that will fester into the community and bring about a state carrying arms against its state, itself, and another state, to the extent that conflict now looks at intrastate issues, where it has ceased to be conflicts between countries. So it's within now, as a result of our selfish and individual request for whatever power that we want. So I think that being at peace with ourselves, with our neighbors, as a state, will ensure that at the global level, these things are curtailed.
Let's move to the interesting activities earmarked for this year's celebration.
Okay.
I do know that it started somewhere on the 18th of May.
Correct.
Digital outreach program.
Correct.
Interesting. What happened on the 18th of May? That's gone. Then we'll come back to other activities that we are to expect.
Yeah, so essentially it is the same thing you are continuing, that the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in collaboration with the Ghana Armed Forces and other stakeholders think that we should use technology to, let people know why we are honoring our heroes. And if we pass on that message properly, it will tell them to maintain the peace, to try it at their individual level. So a lot of media houses have been brought on board to let us all pass on the message that peace is necessary. Peacekeeping is happening. People have fallen. We need to celebrate them. Then that question of why we are celebrating people will let us know ourselves that we should keep the peace. Then we have tree planting that will be done in memory of the Ghanaian foreign soldiers, all around the same day of the 29th. Photo exhibition.
Which is this coming Monday.
Correct. And then it will be climaxed by flag raising ceremony at the forecourt of the State House.
Right.
And that essentially ends it. That will be attended by, stakeholders, very VVIPs, ministers of state, to show how important the UN Day for Peacekeepers are. And that is only at the local level. Probably I should just hint that we are just copying what is happening at the UN headquarters. And the Secretary General himself supervises. In fact, he lays a wreath at the UN headquarters to honor our fallen heroes. And I should tell you that we ever had the second Secretary General, Dag Hammarskjöld, the Swedish diplomat, die in a plane crash. So the UN has instituted a Dag Hammarskjöld Award for fallen UN soldiers. So that is also being commemorated in the UN headquarters. And I should say, as a prelude to the 29th, today as we speak, there is a program going on at UN headquarters where award is being given to military gender advocates. And I'm super proud to report that our own Captain Cecilia Ezra is an award winner for the military gender advocate person of the year 2022, for which we are very glad.
And proud.
Yes.
As well. Brigadier General Dzandu-Hedidor.
Correct.
We are very appreciative of your time. Thank you so much for this insightful conversation as we mark UN Peacekeepers Day on May 29th. This is part of educating the public, getting them to be more interested in issues around peace, global peace, and also peace on our continent, and even peace in Ghana as we get closer to elections next year. So it's been very informative. Let me take your last words and then we can let you go and attend to other important things.
I should also thank you for the opportunity that you are a tool to educate the public, and that if we are celebrating heroes that fell in the line of peacekeeping, it's important that we decipher what causes conflict. And as a country, as individuals, as a continent, we are able to sustain our peace. Ghana, generally known as the oasis of peace, in a very turbulent sub-region, we should be able to keep our peace. It is the only country we have, and we are very grateful to God for that. So once again, thank you for having me, and may God bless us all.
Thank you so much.
Thank you
for your
too,
time.
Harriet. Thank you.
Right, the show is Diplomatic Affairs, and today's conversation has been around the 75th UN Peacekeepers Day celebration on May 29th. Peace, without it, the world is in a very, very chaotic situation, if I can put it that way. Everybody needs peace to thrive. You and I have a responsibility. This is taking ownership of this year's celebration. And of course, that is because the theme for this year's celebration says, peace begins with me. Peace begins with you, and it also begins with me. We need peace in our lives so we can continue to push for peace at all levels. It's been great talking to you. The United Nations is a multilateral organization serving the entire world in various ways, and especially when it comes to a day like this, we have a role to play. This is all part of diplomacy. This is all part of international relations, global affairs, and you need to know what is happening in that area. So continue to get to know what is happening in the world of diplomacy and international relations by following us on our social media platforms, DATV Ghana. Thank you so much, Brigadier General Winfried Dzandu-Hedidor. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
All right, so we'll see you same time next week. Thanks so much for joining us.